Hello, it's 9 p.m. in RTD. It's time to English New Edition for tonight headlines. We have the head of state launches the work of the Djibouti Museum. For the international scene in Europe, restrictions to be strengthened in the face of growing contamination with COVID-19. Welcome to our newsroom. After the inauguration of the National Library, the archives, here is the start of the works of the National Museums of the Republic located at the old railway station, a place full of history. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, has proceeded to the laying of the National Museums of the country for the first time in history. Several people marked this event with their presence. In addition to the member of the government, several representatives of political and economic circles, all the diplomatic corps, but also senior officers of the army.
يوضع حجر الأساس للمتحف الوطني في البلاد مشروع أساسي مهم معلم تاريخ للوطن سيحوي موروث الشعب وثقافتي وأصالتي سيحوي
Upon his arrival, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, was welcomed by the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, the Minister of Waqf Momin Hassan Barre, located on the site of the old railway station, a place steeped in history. The constructions of this showcase will arouse and broaden the curiosity of all the public by offering them a space for discovery, exchange, learning, experimentation, wonders, but also for leisure and contemplation, a place of meeting and affluence where many Djiboutians will find themselves with their memory and their history. As with all memories, thus shaping by anticipation is the face of the Djiboutian society of tomorrow. Indeed, this joyful future translates a historical moment of the Republic of Djibouti. It is part of the national collective memories of our past for posterity. This museum, which is part of the landscape of the capital after the library and the National Archives.
ما شاء الله عليك عليك يا اسماعيل ما شاء الله عليك عليك يا اسماعيل اليوم نوضع حجر الأساس لمتحف الوطني في البلاد مشروع أساسي مهم معلم تاريخ للوطن
tamlehinki habte dini maray undanayta fadinni hay tamlehinki habte
This is a day of national pride. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome you, Mr. President of the Republic, in these historic places. Listen to the Minister of Waqf and Culture, Momin Hassan Barre.
En ce jour de fierté nationale, c'est pour moi un grand plaisir de vous accueillir, Monsieur le Président de la République.
This is a day of national pride. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome you, Mr. President of the Republic, in these historic places. The former Djibouti Guard will now become the National Museum of Djibouti. The choice of location is all the more significant, as it is one of the oldest buildings in the city of Djibouti, with an architecture dating from the 19th century. The National Museum of Djibouti represents a pyramid cultural showcase, illustrating the genius and innovative spirit of our people. The development of Djibouti's cultural is one of the major priorities of the society project that you have initiated to place our country on the road to progress and prosperity. You are going to lay the foundations for the cultural development of the country through the creation of these fundamental pillars, namely the National Library and the National Archives, the National Museum of Djibouti, the Djibouti Office of Copyright and Neighboring Rights, and finally, the development of the national cultural policy. By these great achievements, we complete the chain of these cultural infrastructures that contribute to the height of the influence of our country. These achievements will bring added value to cultural action in its community mission in order to further consolidate social cohesion and intergenerational solidarity. I must illuminate in passing that we will see tomorrow at the screening of the preview of the film entitled Djibouti, which we launched in Kogis in India at the beginning of the year of 2020, in the presence of colleagues and friends, both Djiboutian and Indian promoters of the seventh art. This film, which was shot in Djibouti, is the result of a co-production in partnership with a major Indian company. It is the President of the Republic in order to promote bilateral cooperation in the field of museums. We have already initiated contracts with a view to identifying and implementing partnership program with the UNESCO and other international and regional institutions, particularly with the countries of the Horn of Africa, the Red Sea, and the Arabian Peninsula. One of the objectives of this program is to help the National Museum to acquire the material and intellectual means to ensure its regional position in the cultural field.
We are gathered here today to lay the foundation stone of the National Museums of Djibouti, which will be housed in the old Djibouti railway station. Listen to the head of state, Ismail Omar Gelle.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Mesdames et messieurs, nous sommes réunis aujourd'hui pour poser la première pierre du Musée national de Djibouti.
We are gathered here today to lay the foundation stone of the National Museum of Djibouti, which will be housed in the old Djibouti railway station. This century-old architectural heritage is of particular importance to use in terms of collective and individual memory, because the history it embodies reaffirms the value of national identity in all its pride and richness. Our country is rich in tangible and intangible heritage of cultural, scientific, and historical importance. It is therefore imperative to preserve the memory by telling the story. The creation of this new museum is fully in line with our cultural policy and responds to an imperative need, which is the transmission of our history, our values, and our culture. We must therefore pass them on with education, care, and passion. And when we are no longer here, we need places of memory, history, and transmission. We need objects that embody, illustrate, and document. We need objects that provoke reflection and inspiration. This is why the location of the museum project in this very place is a symbolic choice, a magnificent place that inspires many Djiboutians, a setting that we intend to restore in the service of Djiboutian cultural and history. Ladies and gentlemen, the launch of this new heritage institution is in addition to the other cultural and artistic institutions in the country that have been created within the Department of Culture. The aim of this new building block is not only to preserve our history, but also to perpetuate the influence of our country in this region of the world, which has known a melting pot of cultures, religions, and civilizations. Through the art collections, the masterpieces of antiquity, and the cultural goods that will be exhibited there, the National Museum will trace the civilizational evolution of our people and will thus be a national reference that contributes to the strengthening of the feeling of cultural belonging based on a common vision towards the future.
The National Museum will perpetuate part of the history of our railway and will make known the role and the considerable contribution of the railwaymen in the constructions of the city of Djibouti. Listen once again to the head of state.
À travers les collections d'art, les chefs-d'œuvre de l'Antiquité,
It will also highlight the richness and potential of our country's cultural diversity and will constitute a crossroads where all synergies will converge in order to meet the cultural needs of our youth. It will also offer a variety of exhibitions ranging from traditional and craft collections to the discoveries of archaeological exhibitions, which will provide a broader knowledge of Djibouti, its heritage, and its history. thus contributing to the deepening of the reference points of our national identity. In addition, the National Museum will perpetuate a part of the history of our railway and will make known the role and the considerable contribution of the railwaymen in the construction of the city of Djibouti. As the son of a railway worker, I can only be proud but also moved today because this place is for me a model of a bridge between heritage and creation, a means of transmitting our history to future generations. Finally, in line with our policy of tourism development, the Djibouti National Museum will have a place of choice and will be an essential lever for development as it will create a new local economy. I congratulate all those who have worked on this project, which is so important for our history. The realization, preservation, and especially the influence of this museum involve the entire population of Djibouti. It is an act of commitment that we owe to past generations and that we must pass on to our children's generation. I thank you for your support.
Today is a historic day. Our museum has just come into being, and without a museum, a country is not complete. Listen once again to the head of state, Ismail Omar Gelle.
maanta maalin yar oo taariikh ah weeye matxafkeennii baa ayaa dhashay matxaf la'aanna waddanku ma buuxo ma dhanno.
Today is a historic day. Our museum has just come into being. Without a museum, a country is not complete. It is a day that illustrates once again that our country has a renewed interest in our history. It will be one of the landmarks that, by linking us to our common past, resist the waves of time, improve with age, and project us into the future, while keeping our feet firmly on the foundation of our history. This place will be a space that brings together all the objects that have left their mark, whether in the field of analogy, history, or anthropology. It will be a place that brings together all the elements relating to our identity, our past, and make it a place of meeting and affections where many Djiboutians will find themselves with their memory and their history, as with all memories thus shaping, by anticipation, the face of the Djiboutian society of tomorrow. If we opted for the museum to be located here, it is because the railway station is part of our historical heritage, as it was the first one built in Africa that linked two countries, built by the greatest engineers of all time. Among them was the great Gustave Eiffel, whose name is on the Eiffel Tower. In Paris, he built the Hol and the Chevalier Bridge. This place is full of memory because the railway has brought modernity with a special resourcefulness in the hearts and memories of our citizens. That is why this place will be our future museum. It will carry the stories of those who work directly and indirectly, the sayings of our people. Although, if we pay attention to its inceptions, the question of building a train snaking from one place to another thousands of kilometers away was inconceivable for some, while others welcomed the news with fervor. So much blood was shed. The work did not stop despite this. Step by step, new technologies replaced it. As you can see today, we have the first electric train in Africa. We congratulate all the people who are going to undertake this titanic work, and we stand by them.
The permanent representative of the Francophonie to the African Union, Ms. Zahra Kamil Ali, is in Djibouti for a working visit. The Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed had a consultation meeting this afternoon with Ms. Zahra Kamil Ali, permanent representative of the Francophonie to the African Union in Addis Ababa. The discussions focused on the cooperation between the Republic of Djibouti and the institution of the Francophonie and the means of strengthening it. He also underlined that Djibouti is the only French-speaking country in the Horn of Africa, and due to its strategic positions, it has the potential to become an important pole of influence of the French languages in this part of Africa and the Arab countries. The permanent representative of the African Union of the Francophonie to the African Union, Zahra Kamil Ali, thanked the Prime Minister for his welcome and his availability and was pleased to serve the Francophonie in Djibouti, where she is from. She stressed that Djibouti occupies a place in the influence of the Francophonie in the region. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation, Government spokesman Mahmoud Ali Yusuf received yesterday in his offices his Saudi counterpart Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud. During the meeting, the minister reviewed bilateral relations and joint cooperation between Djibouti and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in various files, including cooperation in the fight against illegal immigration. During the meeting, the Saudi ministers praised the major role played by Djibouti in strengthening security and stability in the region and stressed the interest of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in consolidating the development of the countries in the Red Sea region. The Minister of Foreign Affairs Mahmoud Ali Yusuf received the Francophonie representative Ms. Zahra Kamil Yusuf. The Minister of Foreign Affairs Mahmoud Ali Yusuf met with Zahra Kamil Ali, the representative of the Francophonie in Djibouti. The moment took place at the signing of the memorandum of understanding between the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the African Union. The Minister of Defense in charge of relation with Parliament, Hassan Omar Mohammed, met this morning at the Hotel of Officers Hassan Basoma, his Italian counterpart Lorenzo Guerini, arriving in Djibouti yesterday for a working visit, led a strong delegation composed of his close collaborator. During this meeting, the Italian Minister of Defense was accompanied by the Italian ambassador to the Republic of Djibouti, Mr. Arturo Lizzi. On the Djiboutian side, Hassan Omar Mohammed was assisted by General Tahiru Ali Mohammed, and Chief of the Defense Staff, and a small delegation of senior officers from the General Staff of the Armed Forces. Also participating were Colonel Mohammed Jama' Douale, Commander of the Republican Guard, the Chief of the National Gendarmerie, Colonel Zakaria Hassan Aden. Still within the framework of the fight against COVID-19, the various gestures were scrupulously respected, namely hand washings at the entrance of the buildings, the compulsory wearing of masks, and social distancing. This working visit is part of the cooperation relation between the two countries, particularly in the military file. The meeting between the two high authorities focused on the positive evolutions of the existing cooperation relations between the two countries, and more particularly between the two ministries. In his speech, the Minister of Defense in charge of relations with Parliament, Hassan Omar Mohammed, welcomed to Djibouti Lorenzo Guerini, Italian Minister of Defense, land of meeting and exchanges. Let's listen to the Minister of Defense.
C'est avec un immense plaisir que je vous accueille à Djibouti, terre d'échange et de rencontres.
It is with a great pleasure that I welcome you to Djibouti, a land of exchange and meetings, on the occasion of your official visit to our country. The choice of your visit to Djibouti at a time when the COVID-19 is at the peak. It is a great honor for us that you have chosen to visit Djibouti at a time when the pandemic is greatly affecting all the countries of the world, and is a sign of the unique nature of the relations between our two countries. The Republic of Djibouti is a small country located in a strategic location in a troubled region feminine of maritime piracy, terrorist threats from extremist groups like Al-Shabaab in Somalia, trafficking in illegal immigrants, etc. Despite this, it is important to stress that our country enjoys political and economic stability, and this is thanks to the wise policy of our head of state, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, who have maintained stability and developed creative relations with many friendly countries. Also, the support and assistance that Italy provides to the Republic of Djibouti, both at the economic level in areas as varied as health and social, contributes greatly to the development of our country. As you know, our country is involved in the pacification of Somalia, and it is in this context that we have been deploying two contingents of 20,000 men in African Union Peacekeeping Mission and AMISOM since 2011. It should be also remembered that the Republic of Djibouti has long hosted the military bases of friendly countries in the Italian base.
Yesterday afternoon, as part of the launch of the operation of the Fund of Relief and Support to the Small Medium Enterprises, which will be organized on Thursday, March of 25 at the People's Palace under the patronage of the President of the Republic, Ismail Omar Guelleh, the Minister of Economy and Finance, Ilyas Musa Dawale, met with the Union of Owners and Drivers of Bajaj to discuss with these bodies of trade extremely active in the towns of Balbala. During this meeting, the union's committee presented to the minister the difficulties encountered by the Bajaj in circulations in Balbala. The president of the union, Mr. Abdul Qadir Ali Umar, recalled that the tricycle of the Balbala were hit hard by COVID-19 health crisis and effects of last year's confinement. The minister, in his speech, informed the owners and drivers of the setting up of the National Solidarity Pact and the Fund of Relief and Support to the small medium enterprises to help them. He encouraged the union to formalize and organize itself by complying with the conditions of exercises of this profession. The Minister of Health, Muhammad Warsama Diriye, made a statement on RTD following the sudden upsurge of the positive cases observed in recent days. The Minister of Health urges the population to show responsibility both individually and collectively to preserve the gains of our response. A panel of revitalizations of the Declaration of Service to the Citizen was organized this morning on March 24, 2021 at the National Institute of the Public Administration, INAP. The ceremony was chaired by the Secretary General of the Ministry of Employment, Mr. Abdullah Ali Muhammad. The objective of this panel was to discuss the protection of citizens against COVID-19 pandemic while improving living conditions by implementing good governance, bringing the administration closer to the users and facilitating public service. The ceremony was attended by the Sekha, Mr. Muhammad Awale, and the Executive Secretary Muhammad Awale and the Director General of INAP, Mr. Sharmarke Idris. The vaccination against COVID-19 pandemic is still going on today in the all specially set up at the People's Palace for people over 55 year old. Almost 250 people are vaccinated every day with the British vaccine AstraZeneca. For health workers, the vaccination continues in the General Hospital Peltier, the Hospital of Balbala, and all the health centers. The health workers will be entitled to the vaccines CoronaVac, manufactured by the Chinese company Sinovac. As part of the fight against the coronavirus pandemic, the new Medical Surgical Center of the National Police today hosted the vaccination campaign against this epidemic for the forces of the National Police. The Director General of Police, Colonel Abdullahi Abdi Farah, accompanied by several senior police officers, were the first to be vaccinated. The first phase of this campaign will benefit the staff of the National Police who are in direct contact with the population. In the next phase, police families should benefit from the campaign. According to the officials, it should be noted that this initiative coincides with the increase in positive cases in our country over the days. According to the daily statistics published by the Ministry of Health, it is worth noting that the President of the Republic, Ismail Omar Guelleh, officially launched the National Vaccination Campaign program against the emerging coronavirus pandemic, urging citizens to be vaccinated against the COVID-19 epidemic. The National Communication Council held a meeting at its headquarters today to discuss the establishment of impartiality for the coverage of the candidates' meetings with representatives of the public, audiovisual and writing press. the head of regional and international channels, in addition to the president of the CNC, Ms. Ulufa Ismail Abdo, the delegates or representatives of radio televisions of Djibouti, the deputy directors of information, Omar Ali Ige, the director of Mr. Fahim Ibrahim, the director of the Al-Qarni, Mr. Yassin Bouha, and the head of the Universal TV, and the head of the regional media. The meeting focused on the media coverage during the election campaign and decided to allocate 60 minutes of air time to each candidate. The president of the CNC, Ms. Ulufa Ismail Abdo, insisted on the respect of the equality and fairness. The president of the National Commission advisor, Ms. Ulufa Ismail Abdo, convened this meeting. The campaign director of the two candidates in the presidential election, the campaign manager of the two candidates in the running for the presidential election, namely Dr. Jama Hassan of the UMP and Abdullah Muhammad of the independent candidate. It was a question of explaining to the representatives of the two candidates during the campaign. The president guaranteed the respect of the air times, and afterwards she made the representatives of the two candidates sign a charter of respect for the national order. A draw was made in the presence of bailiff. Their independent candidates will be the first to appear on the television news during the entire campaign. The Minister of Health, Mohamed Warsama Diriye, the Minister of Labor, Isman Ibrahim Roble, the Vice President of the National Assembly, Ilmi Obsiye Wais, the parliamentarian of the region of Ali Sabih, have withdrawn yesterday afternoon their voters' card at the prefecture of Ali Sabih. This move of the government, or a member of the parliamentarian, encouraged the population to do the same and be in phases with their civic duty of voting in the framework of the presidential elections of April 9, 2021. The direction of the Maritime Affairs informs its users that the ferry Mohammed Burhan Qasim will make two trips to Tajura on Thursday 25 March, the first trip at 6 a.m., the second at 12 noon. On Saturday 27 March, the ferry will make a special trip to Obok, where it will leave Djibouti at 6 a.m. Tired with the numerous operations of the gendarmerie in the fight against petty, mediums, and serious crime, some traffickers of narcotics and contraband depigmentations products thought that changing their playgrounds meant the end of the hunt, but in vain. It is precisely in order to remind these traffickers of their wrong being that on 23 March 2021, starting at 1 p.m., the gendarmerie of the 6th-7th Brigade, reinforced by their colleagues of the mobile gendarmerie, launched a large-scale judicial operation with a simultaneous raid on several points. Indeed, the first teams of investigators catch cannabis herb traffickers in the middle of the transactions of the dry port area, surrounded from all sides. So the 8 traffickers found no other solution than to be arrested without resistance. This operation resulted in the seizures of more than 12 kilograms of cannabis herb. For the international scene, restrictions tightened as contamination rise in Europe. It is cold showers in the Netherlands. The strict confinement of the countries has been extended for 3 weeks until 20 April. The reason on increased contaminations and hospitalization. The only consolation, the curfew has been delayed by 1 hour to 10 p.m. bars and restaurants closed since October will remain closed. The same goes for so-called non-essential shops, which will keep their curtains down. I would like to call once again for the basic rules to be respected. If we have done it for, we managed to push the third wave back a little further, and we can do it again. I am convinced that our own behaviors is still the quickest way to relay the misery, say Prime Minister's designate Mark Rutte. This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us. Have a good evening.